Okay, welcome back to the second video in this tutorial series on using Adobe Edge Animate. In the last video, we just looked at the layout of Edge Animate, how to draw shapes and add text to the stage, real basic stuff. And now what we're going to do is look at how to animate. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Create New. Okay, this time I'm going to hit Save. Okay, and we'll just call this Animate. Okay, Animate 1. And I'm going to save that in this folder called Edge Intro on my desktop. Okay, let's go ahead and look at that now. Notice all the files that it's saved in here. Okay, all the JavaScript, the program file, the .an, HTML, and this includes file, which includes code that's needed to actually play your project. So that's a lot of stuff. So you're going to want to save all of your projects here, your Edge Animate projects, in separate folders. Okay, you just don't want to start dumping them all in your documents or something like that, or you're going to end up with a huge mess or all in one folder. Okay, keep them all separate. All right, so because I already did the basics in the last video, I'm going to just fly through this real quick. I'm going to change my default screen 800 by 600. Okay, I'm going to change the background to black. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw a rounded rectangle. There we go, rounded rectangle. I'm going to, let's see, make the color the gradient color. I'm going to make the corners a little bit more round, like so. All right, and that'll do it. Now, see these automation switches down here, right here. I'm going to actually, I don't know if they'll be, might be on for you, but if they're not, go ahead and select this auto keyframe mode and this auto transition mode. Okay. What this does is when we have a keyframe set, every time we move the object, it'll add a keyframe or adjust a keyframe. And every time we have two keyframes, it'll create a transition. Okay. And I'll show you what all that means. For those of you familiar with After Effects, you probably see these triangles or these diamonds and you know exactly what these are, right? And what you're thinking is right. It functions exactly the same way. What these are, they're keyframes, okay? This is how you add keyframes. And all these different values here allow you to add keyframes. Okay, so what's a keyframe? Well, let me show you. Over here on the x-axis here of the position, I'm going to select this diamond. See what happened down here? It opened up this left property at 198, and it created this white diamond. That's my first keyframe. Okay? Now I have auto keyframe and auto transition set up right now, enabled. So if I move down to the 1 second mark, all I have to do is grab this object and move it somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and just move it over here to the left along the x-axis. And I actually held down shift when I was dragging that over, so it would only move along the x-axis, okay, instead of just moving. So I was like, I'd shift and drag. You don't have to, but that's what I did. And notice how it created this green line right here between the two keyframes. This is the transition. These are keyframes, these diamonds. This is the transition, okay? And it's creating a transition between this keyframe and this keyframe. What does that mean? Well, check it out. When I grab the playhead and drag it, see? It's animated along the timeline in between those two keyframes, okay? And if I press play, either with the space bar or by hitting this play button right here, it animates, all right? Okay, so let's go ahead and delete this. And let's turn off these, okay? Wanted to start with them on because there's probably the two of these were probably on when you open up your program, okay? So now I can move this around, right? No keyframes are set. I have to manually set the keyframes, okay? If I select this red auto keyframe and then move this around, it automatically set those keyframes. See that? So I'm gonna go ahead and undo that by hitting Command Z. You can also go up here to Edit, Undo. Okay, so let's see here. Then the transition will create the transitions between the two keyframes. But let's go ahead and do this whole thing manually. Everything is disabled right now. So I'm going to go ahead and set a keyframe at 186 along the x-axis and 204 along the y. Okay, and I'll move down here. Okay, and I'm going to set 2 more keyframes. Now I could do it right here, or I could do it up here. Okay. Like most Adobe programs, there's 10 ways to do everything. Okay, now these two keyframes have no transition between them, and they have the same exact value, right? If I press play, nothing happens. Very exciting, right? I'm just hitting the space bar to press play now instead of hitting right here. And it does nothing. With the playhead over these two keyframes, if I change these values like so, okay, there we go. Notice how they became hollow keyframes on that side? Okay, if I press play now, there's no transition, so watch what happens. Pop. Okay, there's no transition, it doesn't animate. It's this value, whatever these keyframes are on the timeline, until it's these ones. Okay, and we don't want that. We want a transition. Okay, so what we do then is I go over to this diamond right here, right click, and see how it says create transition? If I click on that, there's my transition. Okay, and I'm going to do that again for the top here. Create transition. Okay, now I've created a transition. All right, and I'll go ahead and hit play, and there we go. Easy enough, right? Okay, so to get what's going on there, let's go ahead and delete these. Okay, so now we just have these first two keyframes set for this thing being right in the center right here. If I turn on auto keyframe and auto transition, move up here to 1 second, and move this somewhere. Created the keyframes and the transitions, okay? Pretty sweet that it does that for you. So let's go ahead and press play. Okay, easy enough, right? There's an animation. Okay, now, you are actually creating things that can be played on the web, okay? And just like using an editor like Komodo Edit or Aptana or something where you're writing HTML code in and then previewing in a browser, you can actually preview this animation in a browser right now to see how it's going to look on the web. Okay, now the shortcut command for that is just hitting Command or Control and return. All right, and you can also come up here to preview in browser, File, Preview in browser. Okay, I always hit Command Return. It's just the way I do it. So let's go ahead and try that right now. So again, what's our animation? It's this. Okay, pretty exciting, right? Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Command Return. See that? It opened up Chrome, okay? Because that's my default browser that I have set. And it played our animation. So our animation can be played on the web. So I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh here. Play your animation again. Okay, so that is how you test your animations. Now, okay, you see this little warning symbol down here? This is warning me that some browsers won't play some of the things that I am doing here, okay? And let's see what that is. We'll click right here, and it says CSS gradients are not rendered by Internet Explorer 9. And, well, we don't care. We're going to just roll with it anyway. But that gradient won't show up, apparently, in Internet Explorer 9, as is for now. I've been working with this program for a while now, and a lot of stuff that wasn't acceptable a year ago is now being accepted by different browsers. So things are always evolving and always changing. And that's a good introduction to web design in itself right there, okay? As we work with different blurs, you might get some warnings up that Firefox can't quite render those, but Chrome can, things like that. Or certain things can't be rendered properly in iBooks or, whatever. So, go ahead and keep track of that stuff, and it's good to switch to different browsers, but apparently in Chrome right now, this thing works just fine. So that's how you animate. Okay, again, that's not very exciting. Let's go ahead and let's create another animation here. We can actually, let's go ahead and have this thing stay still for a bit. Let's just remove all of our keyframes here, and let's animate some color. So we'll go down to the CSS filters here. And I'm going to go ahead and set the hue and rotation. And there's the keyframe. And again, I have auto add keyframe and auto transition. I'm going to move up to 2 seconds in the timeline. And we'll just spin this to a different color like so. Okay? And again, we're changing gradient. So we're going to have a warning here. It says, okay, IE9 can't do that. And CSS filters are not currently supported in Firefox. Okay? So, well, pay attention to that as you work with this program. I'm going to go ahead and render that. There you go. It looks great in Chrome. See that? It's changing all kinds of colors. All right. And we can go ahead and just copy this. Let's go ahead and just open up Firefox. Just copy the web address here. I'm going to go ahead and enter. There you go. And see that? It does not move. So that's something nice that only occurs in Chrome. All right. So let's go ahead and let's try and make this a little bit more compatible with Firefox now. Let's see here. So let's get rid of our gradient. And let's go ahead and, delete this. And we'll go ahead and just change the color to red. All right. Let's set a keyframe for that color. We'll move down to 2 seconds in the timeline. All right. And we'll go ahead and change the color to blue. Okay. And see what it did? Okay. And let's go ahead and check this out in Chrome. That works in Chrome. Let's go ahead and copy that web address and throw that into Firefox. And those colors are changing, so Firefox is accepting that, okay? And you're going to just want to check this through different browsers. Anything you ever do on the web, you have to check through multiple browsers, and that's just the way it is. I'm going to go ahead and delete that now. And let's go ahead and animate some text, okay? So I'm going to select text, okay? And I'm going to be real quick about adding the text here. Watch the video before that if you're not sure what I'm doing. And we'll just type in hello world. Good enough. Okay. And, center it. Oh, make it a little bit larger. And make it white just because. And let's go ahead and animate the text. All right. So we're going to animate some text. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and select this keyframe right here for opacity, and we're going to turn the opacity all the way down so it disappears. We'll move up here to 2 seconds in the timeline, and we'll bring the opacity back up and let it go. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and press play, and our text slowly appears. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Command now, and we'll view it in the browser. Sorry, hit Command Return. Okay, and preview it in a browser. We'll refresh. There we go. So it slowly fades on. Okay, so that's, let's see, what else can we do here? Well, we can, of course, animate the position as well. So what we'll do is we'll make it slowly fade on, and then right here, I'll go ahead and set a keyframe for the x-axis here, and move up to 3 seconds in the timeline. And, select text. And we'll go ahead and move this out of the way. And it created that transition right there. Okay, and I'll go ahead and preview this in a browser. Fades on, shoots off the screen. Okay, there we go. So that's how you do some basic animating with Adobe Edge Animate. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is let's just go ahead and delete everything on here. Delete all of our keyframes, and let's see here. Turn this up. Let's see, make sure that all these are selected. And what I did now is I selected this toggle pin right here, okay? So we looked at auto keyframes, which will automatically add a keyframe. Auto transition, which automatically adds our transition. Now the toggle pin allows us to set keyframes, like it says right here, use the pin to create from and to keyframes with a single edit. What this means is we don't actually have to move the playhead somewhere and have that be the point where our keyframes are set up. We can just move the toggle pin. So I'm going to go ahead and move the toggle pin to 2 seconds. Okay, and then select my hello world and just drag it off the stage and let go. See what happened there? I didn't have to move the playhead. And then it set all the keyframes for me and the transition in between the beginning and the toggle pin. Okay? And let's go ahead and I'm going to hit Command Return and view this in a browser. Okay, and it works. All right, so these are all just time savers right here. And again, you can actually do this all manually if you want to. Let me go ahead and delete everything and unenable all of these auto transition features. And go ahead and slap this down here. And I can set a keyframe on the X, set a keyframe on the Y, and then I can, let's see, move up to 1 second in the timeline, set 2 more keyframes, okay, and then move this, which made these things hollow. Then I can select them individually, and create transitions. Okay? Obviously the longer way to do it. But you know what? Sometimes, a lot of the time, you'll be doing some just delicate little animation that you just need to have control of, and you will unhook this stuff. And that's just the way it is. So it's nice that there's both features there. And let's go ahead and preview this in a browser. And there we go. Moved our text up. Okay? So, what's one more quick thing I can show you here before we jump into an actual project? Okay? And, let's look at motion paths. Okay? So, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my auto keyframe here and my auto transition. Okay, I'm going to select motion paths. Okay, so motion path, and we'll go ahead and bring this down a little bit so you can see what's going on here. Okay, good. We can maybe use as much real estate as we can get away with here. Okay, so now we've selected motion paths. Okay, now notice this changed right here to one keyframe. Up here, XY motion, we have our X and our Y. Select motion path, we just have the X and Y. Now if I select this, watch what happens. Select this keyframe. Okay, it says location now. Okay, it's not top and left, it's location. Okay, and that's our first keyframe. Let's go ahead and move up to 2 seconds in the timeline. And we're going to move this to the other side, more or less, like so. And it created our keyframes and our transition just like before, but with one major difference. It gave us a motion path right here, okay? And check this out. When I go near the motion path, it turns into that pen tool, okay? Now I can click on that, and it actually adds this node right here to the motion path. Now I can select that, and I can move it, and you see I get those Bezier handles just like that, okay? So I can move this up like so. I can grab a handle. I can, oops, select motion path, grab the handle, and move it like so. Okay, now let's go ahead and preview in a browser. Yep. Okay, so there's the motion path being animated. Okay, all right, and I think that's all I'm going to show you for now in this brief fly through on how this program works, just so that you know what you're getting into. Okay, and in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to make our first project, and we're going to bring in an animated GIF. And we're going to animate some text, and we're going to create some links that will take us to various web pages. All right, and we're going to take care of that in the next video, so I'll see you there.